A lot of that green brush has burned. Those flames are decreasing in size, but still creeping slowly up the hill, which we know, fire moves fastest up against.
Yes, and exactly. You can just see how close those flames are to those towers, and what Chief Sam was saying earlier, just due to these conditions, that can change so quickly. We can't let our guard down just yet. This fight is still not over, as we're seeing the Eaton fire flaring up here that has reached Mount Wilson, as we continue our coverage here on NBC4 and monitoring conditions there at this hour.
So it is just almost noon here. We are continuing our coverage of the Southern California wildfire emergency. We've been live on the air since the Palisades fire broke out nonstop Tuesday morning at 11 o'clock. That is when we came on the air. We have not stopped covering these fires since. Right now, we are monitoring these flames from the Eaton fire burning dangerously close to Mount Wilson. It has reached the Mount Wilson summit, but so far we've not seen any structures burning. But this is the situation right now. Of course, Mount Wilson, home to many communication towers and equipment for all of Los Angeles and truly Southern California. We're talking about TV towers for all the local stations, as well as radio towers and important infrastructure for law enforcement and first responders. And of course, the historic home to the beautiful Mount Wilson Observatory, a vital and critical and historic site for space observation that is still very active to this day. And right now, winds are light in this area, but the steep slopes are covered in that heavy brush we've been showing you, which we know, unfortunately, is the perfect fuel for flames, even without those winds. And this location, really a challenge for fire crews, given the topography, such steep slopes. Right now, the roads going up to the summit are twisty and narrow, though they are closed to the public, which will help firefighters get up there. But this area makes it very difficult in general for fire trucks to gain access to these flames. We know that the Eaton fire first started in Altadena Tuesday evening. It has burned more than 10,600 acres officially, but we know that number will only continue to rise now, especially with this huge flare-up. In the Eaton fire, 5 people have died. More than 1,000 buildings have burned, including homes and businesses, and evacuation orders remain still very in effect.
And the other big fire that we continue to follow at this hour is the Palisades fire, burning more than 17,000 acres, more than 1,000 buildings burned, including a lot of homes and businesses that we've been seeing across all of our live shot from our reporters, and hearing some of those heartbreaking stories from homeowners returning back to see if their homes are still standing. And right now we're getting a bird's eye view of the damage along PCH in Malibu. Evacuation orders are still in effect at this hour. And as we mentioned earlier, the Lakers game scheduled for tonight has also been postponed, as we continue to monitor these conditions of multiple wildfires that continue to burn across Southern California today.
And joining us live now is LA Fire Chief Kristen Crowley. Thank you so much, Chief, for being with us right now. We can only imagine how busy you are, and a kudos to all of your firefighters and the first responders. They're doing such a wonderful job doing, the best that they can right now. Can you give us an update on the Palisades fire, specifically whether it's still burning? We did see some homes still burning on kind of the western flank of the fire.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you so much for having me. The Palisades fire, I heard you just say it just a few moments ago. Do not let your guard down. Just because the winds have subsided just a little bit, it is still an active firefight. So please, if you hear my words, do not let your guard down. This is a very dynamic situation at our Pacific Palisades fire. And I tell you, firefighters doing everything in their capability to first and foremost make sure that we're protecting lives and property.
And Chief Crowley, talk about that ongoing firefight there in Palisades, because we're covering the Eaton fire right now, which is unfortunately flaring up. But like you said, we're not out of the woods here. What kind of challenges are you facing in the Palisades fire, and are you able to fly that fire? We did finally see some aircraft within the last few hours, but we didn't see any specific water drops.
Right. Yes. It's still very, very dynamic. And even with the winds, remember the gusts at the peak, we're up to 90-mile-per-hour gusts. We're still having very high gusts, but the good news is, as you just said, we do have air assets in the air, which is very, very helpful in something as significant of a fire like we have in the Palisades. Still very, very dynamic. Our firefighters are out there actively still engaged in firefighting. And I tell you, again, keep going back to it, but our firefighters are doing everything we can to protect life and property.
Right now, looking ahead at the afternoon hours, are there any additional concerns that you have right now when you think of the wind and how that could change?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. The wind, and we keep talking about it, but that's purposeful. The reality is it's so erratic. We think that at one point the wind will move in one direction, and then in moments it'll change. And then strategies and tactics also have to change and adjust and adapt to whatever is happening before us. So yes, the winds are still very, very dynamic and are impacting our abilities, but there is a positive thing here, and that is that our air resources are out there and they're coordinating with our ground resources as well.
Chief Crowley, what kind of obstacles are your firefighters facing right now on the ground? We know initially we heard about the hydrant issue and water pressure was a significant issue, but right now, what are some of the challenges that your firefighters are facing? And what is your message to those who are trying to get back to see if their properties are there or still standing? Is it a matter of just you still have to wait because firefighters, they need to get into that space?
Right. Again, I can't overstress this enough. This is still an active firefight. So our firefighters are up against a lot, from the winds to, this is day 3, mind you. We're rotating firefighters in and out. With that, yes, there's been some challenges in regard to our water supply, but also I want to stress that our firefighters, normally in a day 3, we're always looking for our backup plans in regard to, if the water is limited, we're going to draft water out of pools, we're going to find some type of a water source, utilize water tenders, whatever our firefighters, they're coming up with a plan, I can tell you that. So they are up against the winds and there are still multiple structures burning. So it's very, very, very challenging at this point. In regard to the community, thank you for bringing that up, because a lot of people, as we are well aware, want to know what's happening. They want to know if their homes, property are damaged, destroyed. But with that, patience, and that's a very hard thing to talk about right now, but there's very, very, very unsafe for the community to come up unless they're allowed to do so. So with that, we want the community to understand that it is active and there's a lot happening within the Palisades as well as the other active brush fires that we have in the city. So please pay attention to the information that we are putting out real time. Forefront of our mind is always we want to repopulate and bring the community back in so we can start the rebuilding phases and recovery phase. But with that, we're still actively engaged in firefighting. And
when it's safe to do so, of course. And Chief Crowley, how do you reassure other members of, and other residents of the city of Los Angeles? Because, we've been on the air over 48 straight hours. We've been covering active firefights for most of those 48 hours. And yet we're talking about a windstorm that brought down power poles, that brought down trees in people's neighborhoods. It caused a lot of damage elsewhere that now we're just not able to really focus on right now. So how do you reassure the residents of Los Angeles that there is coverage in the rest of the city wherever they may need as you guys continue this really dangerous firefight?
Right. So the community needs to understand that we've also brought in our firefighters from the LAFD. We've brought in firefighters from the region, our local partners, the state, and even on the federal side. So as these days go on, as we are again in day 3, more resources are coming, and they're actually even coming from out of state. As we continue to do this firefight, again, we're moving into 72 hours worth of active firefighting. We're starting to replenish those other fire resources to come in. And now we have our people who are rested, and we can also utilize these extra resources in case, as we've already seen, even yesterday, we've had additional brush fires break out within our region. So that's where we are. So the community members, we hope and pray that they understand that this is where we are. The additional resources are coming in, and we're doing everything we can to, again, protect them and their property.
And Chief Crowley, can you talk more about the importance of heeding to those evacuation orders? We've been hearing that from a number of fire officials that when you get that alert, make that time to go, don't wait. Can you talk to us more about that?
Absolutely. And that's such an important point. So I'm really, really grateful we're talking about this, because as we see what's happening real time, to prepare, ready, set, go should already be happening. So my hopes are that the community is already leaning forward, whether you haven't been impacted yet. Look at what is all around us, right? So with that, we need our entire community who live in a very high fire hazard severity zone in these wildland areas to make sure that they are ready. They're ready to evacuate. When the evacuation warnings come, be ready to go. And when the orders come, we need you to go. And mind you, also, you do not have to wait. You can take a proactive approach if the members and the community members that feel so compelled. So with that, just our message here is just to make sure the community understands, be ready. And when the evacuation orders come, we really need you to go. And it's in step with, as our community members are evacuating. Remember, we've got our apparatus that are trying to get up that street to protect those properties the best that we can. So with that, that's where we really need the community to understand that. Leave early, be ready to go and evacuate, and let us go and do our jobs.
Absolutely. And you guys do that job so well. I've covered so many fires now in Southern California. I can say firsthand, we have the best firefighters in the world, and among them, your LA City firefighters and all of the mutual aid. We have LA Fire Chief Kristen Crowley. We want to thank you so much for taking a little bit of time to speak with us and help guide our viewers through what's going on. And we'll continue to pray for your firefighters, and thank you for all that they do.
Thank you so much.
All right. We want to switch gears now. We want to check back in on the Palisades fire that we were just talking about with LA Fire Chief Kristen Crowley.
And to continue our coverage, we now want to go to our Sarah Wallish. What are you seeing out there from your vantage point at this hour?
Well, Camilla and Jonathan, you were talking with the chief, and she was saying stay out of the areas that have been evacuated because they are still so dangerous. This is the PCH, specifically Big Rock Drive, the intersection. And you can see here, look at this right over here. I mean, this is what you're seeing all over. Telephone poles down. And as you walk along here, as we walk carefully, because it's still so dangerous, you can see just these exposed wires. You can see nails on the ground. Now, keep in mind that this entire section of Malibu was houses, and you can see what we've been showing you all along. Charred cars just left, everything just burned to the ground. It is so dangerous here right now, and you can also still see smoldering. Let me talk to you a little bit about what we've been seeing also up in some of the canyons, as well as we have been here all morning. One of the concerns is those embers still flying around, and what we just saw a short time ago at one of these canyons is a house just on its own, out of the blue, just burning up. And the houses around it completely unscathed. Again, we've been talking about the capriciousness of these fires. You'll see one house fine, and then around it, just destruction. So, listen, but Chief has been telling us and stay out of these areas unless you're allowed back, because it is still so dangerous. The first responders, obviously, still coming by. Look, I mean, we're seeing trucks coming because areas hotspots are just popping up again. And there's also utility crews trying to repair some of the damage, but it's going to take a long time. Back to you.
Our Sarah Wallace there helping us out with our coverage on the ground there along PCH. Camilla, it's so devastating to see the scene behind her. These are people who've built their homes, an entire community, right along one of the most beautiful stretches of water anywhere in the world. And to see the neighborhoods gone like that, it's just alarming.
I will never forget the images of driving through there Tuesday night, returning from covering the Pacific Palisades fire there. And it's just your heart just breaks.
Yeah.
It was just one home after home, one building after building on fire. So just heartbreaking.
It's on a magnitude we've truly never seen. Right now, we want to go back to our news chopper 4, Julia Dang, overhead following this latest flare-up in the Eaton fire. Julia, we have a vantage point from up above our tower, and it's kind of playing out like Dennis Dottie had predicted. He'd been told, that kind of fire, it's putting itself out, but we know they're still not out of the woods yet.
Exactly. This is just like he said, you can see the smoke subsiding now. It's lightening up, moving over to the left, and you can clearly see these towers now on Mount Wilson. Last time I talked to you, they were completely obscured by smoke. What is concerning, though, is not so much what we're seeing on Mount Wilson, it's what we're hearing over the scanners in the helicopter. I'm listening to firefighters talk right now. They have attempted 2 water drops with helicopters, but they can't do it because of the turbulent conditions here. Just after 11 a.m., the LA City Fire Department grounded all fixed-wing aircraft in this area because they cannot fly due to turbulence. So far, no water drops here, and we have not had a fire retardant drop since that last one that we saw live on air. So this really is going to come down to a ground firefight.
We've been covering this all morning long, seeing the development here. What would you say is just the biggest difference compared to earlier this morning, compared to now when you think about the visibility and the smoke?
Camilla, I would say the biggest difference is how fast this is moving, how quickly this is developing. I'm sure you've seen the clips on social media where people put these fire live cams on time lapse. They speed it up. That's what this looks like, but this is in real time. We were over the Eaton fire yesterday. We flew right here yesterday, and we were watching flames climb uphill toward Mount Wilson. And we were alarmed then because we thought it was moving quickly. But this smoke, this is blowing even faster. And this situation has just unfolded within the last hour. Every time I talk to you, conditions change. Fortunately, this time it looks like conditions have changed for the better, just like our engineer laid out. And I just want to underscore again how reassuring it was to hear from Dennis and the LA City Fire Chief. When they tell us they have a plan, they know what they're doing, they are prepared for this, and they knew because of the conditions in the forecast, it was going to be bad this week. I think we all feel better knowing our officials are prepared.
And despite those conditions, the winds are light here. That is good news. This is a, topography and kind of brush-driven fire here, but the good news is the winds are light compared to what they were even just a few hours ago there atop Mount Wilson. I do want to, as we hold your shot, Julia, give our viewers an update. LAUSD schools, per a statement from the school district and the superintendent, Alberto Carvalho, LAUSD schools and offices will be closed for Friday, January 10th. Again, all LAUSD schools and offices will remain closed tomorrow, Friday, January 10th. Students will continue to have digital access to academic resources as part of the district's learning efforts there. And for any students and families who need printed materials, they're being asked to go to the regional offices from 8 to 11 a.m. tomorrow. But as of right now, LAUSD schools and offices will remain closed through tomorrow, Friday, January 10th, with no sign of reopening as of yet. I'm assuming we'll get another update tomorrow or the weekend about, openings. And remember to scan that QR code there on your screen where you can get the very latest information, like updates to school districts, evacuations, and of course, the weather conditions as we continue our coverage here.
And right now we have NBC reporters from across the country helping us with our coverage. Dana Williams from NBC San Diego is live for us covering the Eaton fire in Altadena. And you are on Marengo and Calaveras Street, I understand.
We don't believe. We may have the wrong live shot up here. There's our Dana Williams. Dana, sorry, we tossed you. Can you hear us okay now? We see you.
I can hear you, no problem. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Dana. Go ahead.
Wonderful. Okay. So like you said, we are standing on North Marengo and our closest cross street is Calaveras. This has been a steady stream of people arriving this morning. It's incredibly somber. As they're arriving, they are wondering in their heads, is my home going to be there? At the end of the street, there is a CHP officer who isn't letting traffic through, but we actually just met a man. His name is Harry, and he just arrived. He is going to walk up to his house, and he agreed to let us walk with him. He does know some things. He knows that his home more than likely isn't going to be there. Harry, thanks for talking with us. We'll head over to your house now, if that's all right with you. Harry, tell me, how long have you lived here?
I've been here since 79. My mom has had the house since 72.
72. And when this fire first broke out, I mean, what was going through your head?
Well, when I first saw it, or I talked to somebody, they were saying it was way over by Eaton Canyon. And I was like, well, the news report said that the wind is going to die down. There shouldn't be any problem. So the lights went out. Me and my wife went to sleep. They came back on maybe around 10 or 11. I got up, went into the living room. I'm going to turn everything off. They went back out. I had to go to work that day, so let's say around 5 o'clock I started getting, 5:30 I started getting dressed. I saw just a little cinder out by the back. I thought, okay, I could get the hose and put that out. Nothing. But the inner gate was locked, so I had to come back inside, get the keys, come back outside. By that time, it was coming up the back of the building. And I said, hey, we got to go. Come on. My wife couldn't find the keys to her car. And she said, can you go get your key, which is through to the bathroom? The smoke and everything was too thick. I couldn't breathe. So I said, no, we got to go. Try use 911 to call. We went outside. Fire was running down. One of the wires coming off the telephone pole to the house next door to us. I saw the fire coming up, starting to get over one of the rooms in the back. So we had to get out. We just drove down to the bottom of the driveway and headed towards Fair Oaks.
And Harry, now I believe this is close to your first glimpse of your home since the fires. We could take a few more steps further if you're comfortable.
Sure.
I mean, what at this point, can you even believe it? And we are going to be careful right here. There are some down power lines. This is something people need to be really careful about if they are trying to come back into their neighborhood. So we're just going to take a gentle step over these. Harry, what do you see right now?
Well, this house here is gone. And he just redid a lot of the front of his property here. Put up all this wrought iron fencing and the steps and the pillars. And it's completely, well, the fireplace is still there, but.
And which one of these lots, Harry, is yours? Is it this far one with the green grass?
I'm the next one where the 3 mailboxes are, or the 2 mailboxes. So not the one with the green grass, but the next one over. The guy with the green grass, he just 2 weeks ago put in a sprinkling system because it gets so hot up here or so cold that you can't keep the grass green. So he put in a sprinkling system and yeah.
And Harry, so, I mean, this is your home.
Not this one, but the one where the white Mercedes is over there. Is my home.
Your first glimpse, can you even describe it? Does it feel real?
No, not at all. Not at all. Cars are gone. I had the Mercedes, a Jeep, and my Harley. I couldn't take out of there. So all I have is my little Chevy Colorado. So looking at this, maybe the Mercedes is in halfway decent condition and I can get it out of there. But I don't know. I'll have to take a look. That's why I was here today, to see what exactly I could muster up after all the disaster.
And Harry, I can tell you have a lot of family and friends here helping you. You're really close with a lot of people in this community. How will rebuilding be?
It'll be tough. I have to consult and see if we can rebuild. I've been here for a long time, so I would imagine that it shouldn't be a problem. It's just going to be time consuming. First with the cleanup, demolition and everything, and getting all the old cars and all that out of here, and then having to find all the water mains and gas and all that to even dig and start rebuilding.
Harry, do you mind if we take a few more steps closer here? And be careful, there are all power lines right behind you there. Again, guys, we are on Calaveras Street here in Altadena. We are taking a look at some of the destruction as people are just starting to arrive to look at their homes for the very first time. So many people are describing it as something that they truly have just never seen before. You hear it time and time again, people never expect it to be in their neighborhoods, but here it is in the destruction. It's difficult to even truly show you what it's like through video. Smell it. There's ash falling like it's snow. Harry, where are we now? Where was your front door? This is your driveway?
The door was right across from the Mercedes. So just to the left of where the Mercedes is where the front door. Okay.
All right. So the Mercedes, is that a miracle? Did that Mercedes miraculously survive being right there?
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. Because there was trees on both sides of it. As you see, I have what they call a flag property. So I have two pieces of property. Well, they're not mine, but there's two houses in the back behind all these trees and stuff.
Okay. Look at that, Harry. This Mercedes, this is really fascinating and something we're seeing throughout the neighborhood. This Mercedes.
All right, we're
Maybe
losing
the one
connection
thing
there to Dana
that is
Williams'
salvageable.
shot. We believe we want to go to our Alex Rozier next in Malibu along PCH. And Alex, we understand you have some breaking new information. Our first confirmed death from the Palisades fire.
Yeah, guys, we are live right now just to the south of Dukes. I think that's probably the landmark that a lot of people would know. I want to give you a live look. Human remains have been confirmed found inside this home last night by the Sheriff's Department. Looking at this scene right now, the LASD deputies are on scene, and so is the medical examiner's office. And they tell me that the medical examiner's office will work to make the identification of the person who died here in the Palisades fire. So here's what happened. It was a missing persons report initially, and they tell me that that turned into a welfare check. So the LASD Lost Hills Station conducted the welfare check last night, and they discovered those remains. So their investigation is ongoing right now. But again, the medical examiner will make that positive identification. One thing that the detective with the LASD just told me is that what happened here, again, this is a residential home just off Pacific Coast Highway, and apparently one person left and one person stayed behind, and they don't know why they stayed behind. He said potentially to fight the fire. We don't know that at this point, but it turned into a missing persons report at some point. Then that welfare check, and the welfare check led to the discovery of the human remains. So that is what this scene is all about right now on Pacific Coast Highway. Detectives are here. The medical examiner's office is here as they work to make that identification of the person that was discovered after the Palisades fire. Jonathan, we'll send it back to you.
All right, our Alex Rozier in Malibu on Pacific Coast Highway in Los Flores Canyon Road. Jonathan reporting on the first death confirmed in the Palisades fire. Alex, just an absolute tragic update at this hour that we're now learning. Jonathan.
Yeah, as we stay with Alex's shot here, you see the sheriff's deputies out there. It was the Sheriff Robert Luna, LA County Sheriff, who said today that his sheriff's deputies will be conducting all death investigations. We know there had been at least 5 confirmed deaths in the Eaton fire burning in Altadena. He had said that he sadly anticipates that number to likely be higher when all things are said and done. But now this first confirmed death in the Palisades fire. And to reiterate, we don't know the circumstances about what happened in this particular case as we see those first responders bringing in a stretcher to that scene. But one thing that the sheriff mentioned today was he was tired of hearing his deputies having to make rescues, that every rescue that his deputies were making were people who refused to leave their homes under mandatory evacuation orders. In most cases, there aren't enough personnel to physically drag someone out of their home. It has to be on the people who live there. And sadly, we heard there from Alex that what he was hearing on the ground was that one person chose to leave. and that one person stayed behind. And so, we still have a lot of information to confirm before we can make that call, but that is something the sheriff pointed out this morning.
Yeah, and it's investigation we're going to continue to follow for more updates throughout the day. It's 12:30 p.m. and we're continuing our coverage of Southern California's wildfire emergency live on the air nonstop since Tuesday morning.
And right now, the flames from the Eaton fire burning dangerously close to Mount Wilson. Mount Wilson is home to many communications towers and equipment for Los Angeles, including the way that we're broadcasting to you right now. It's also home to the historic Mount Wilson Observatory and roads going up there to the summit. We know they are twisty, they are narrow. It makes it very difficult for access to fire trucks and fire crews.
And
So our
right now,
firefighters are up against a lot, from the winds to, this is day 3, mind you. We're rotating firefighters in and out. With that, yes, there's been some challenges in regard to our water supply, but also I want to stress that our firefighters, normally in a day 3, we're always looking for our backup plans in regard to, if the water is limited, we're going to draft water out of pools, we're going to find some type of a water source, utilize water tenders, whatever our firefighters, they're coming up with a plan, I can tell you that.
the Eaton fire first started in Altadena on Tuesday and has burned more than 10,000 acres. 5 people have died. More than 1,000 buildings have burned, including homes and businesses. And right now, evacuation orders remain in effect. And effective immediately, the fire danger level has increased to critical at the Angeles National Forest. They had put out an update just a few minutes ago, and the closure there now extended through Wednesday, January 15th. So that's the latest update there. And we've just learned the Palisades fire has turned deadly. The first death confirmed minutes ago after human remains were found on Pacific Coast Highway and Las Flores Canyon Road. So far, the Palisades fire has burned more than 17,000 acres and more than 1,000 buildings burned, including a number of homes and businesses. And we're getting a bird's eye view here of the damage along PCH in Malibu. Evacuation orders are still in effect, and the Lakers game scheduled for tonight has been postponed. And as Jonathan, you mentioned earlier, many schools are closed today, including every school in LA Unified School District, Pasadena, Monrovia, also among those closures. And there are several others that we have a full list for you. Make sure to go to our website, NBCLA.com, for all those updates.
And we know we're bringing you a ton of information all at once. We want to remind you that the QR code right here on your screen, you can use your phone camera to scan that QR code. It'll take you to our website and our NBC4LA app, where you can get access to all of the information that we're trying to convey in real time. Also, an update to that LAUSD closure today. It has been extended through at least tomorrow. All LAUSD schools and offices will be closed Friday as well, in addition to today. Right now, we want to get over to our meteorologist, Shauna Mendiola, tracking the current conditions, because Shauna, especially with this flare-up is happening, the winds aren't really the issue there at the Eaton fire of Mount Wilson, but they may be an issue for the fire over in Palisades, which is continuing at this hour.
Right, and we still see the wind picking up in certain areas. The Eaton fire didn't have much wind, but you know that there was a fire burning there. It's all the fuel that we're seeing on the ground, and with the added wind, that's not going to help for certain locations. I do want to get to the Palisades fire first, get an update there, because we are starting to see the wind pick up a little bit in certain spots near it. Santa Monica Mountains, 27-mile-per-hour wind gust there. Malibu Creek, 13-mile-per-hour wind gust. And even though that is not a strong wind, any little bit of wind that'll move through a fire region will fan flames and continue to cause it to spread. So that is something we've been monitoring very closely. And I'll take you to the Eaton fire in Altadena, a little bit of a different situation. The winds there, very light. 2-mile-per-hour winds there, and maybe even a 3-mile-per-hour wind near Altadena and the mountain range here. This is all because we've got wind-sheltered spots for this round of wind. Our wind is going to be a Santa Ana wind that comes through the passes, canyons, and certain spots, not those wind-sheltered neighborhoods like the San Gabriel Valley. And that's why that last round with those damaging winds was really different, and something that we haven't seen in a long time, because they usually don't get that type of wind when we get those offshore ones. Now, I want to put the satellite radar picture here because we can monitor smoke. And I want to show you that in the last couple hours, we started to see this appear on our radar. And this is impacting a lot of areas into LA County. Notice how it's coming in from a northeast to southwest direction. Not really obvious to you right now, but we can see some of the smoke drifting. And I do want to point that out because our air quality is terrible in LA County. Where you're seeing the reds here on the map, that is all because the Eaton fire is spreading that smoke locally into the basin. So if you live in Burbank, you live in Los Angeles, downtown, you look in the distance, the sky is orange right now. You are blanketed in wildfire smoke. Very bad for your lungs. This is something we need to monitor and be careful of, because if you inhale that, that can have a impact to your health here, not just short term, but long term as well. There's a live check of what it looks like over downtown LA. There, your orange skies can barely see through it. The sun is shining, but it is making those skies orange instead of blue. We're going to be seeing this for the next few days as long as the fires continue to burn. So limit your exposure if you can. Stay inside if you can. Make sure your windows and doors are closed over the next few days. And if you have to step outside, remember, wear those masks, and they have to be an N95 or P100 mask, not a dust mask or things that can't protect you from these pollutants. Run those air conditioning units or air purifiers if you can during this time as well. Now, looking back at a red flag warning, notice how everyone is still under this warning till 6 o'clock. Even though the winds have changed a little bit and we got a break yesterday through today, we still have dry conditions out there and another round of wind coming. Now, we're starting to see it develop right now, but some of the stronger winds are going to develop even more as we head to the evening hours. And what you're seeing here is a wind alert for most of Southern California, with the exception of the LA Basin and the Orange County coastline. So we'll monitor this for you as well. This is through tomorrow as this next round moves in. And there's a current look at your winds right now. And like I mentioned, parts of LA are under this wind sheltered area. So you're not seeing much going on in downtown LA, even in Orange County at this time. But you go into the Inland Empire and Riverside, you've got a 38-mile-per-hour wind gust. You've got a 45-mile-per-hour wind gust in Ontario. So that is those occasional winds that come through and just could be strong at times. The other night, we saw those 90-mile-per-hour wind gusts. So I don't expect this one to be as strong. But again, because of the fire threat out there, any wind is going to be not good for us. Looking at Thousand Oaks, you've got a 19-mile-per-hour wind gust. And as we're looking at the afternoon, I do expect the developing Santa Ana winds to get a little stronger. It's going to be a gradual climb, gradual strengthening. By the time we get to this evening, that map is going to light up in colors in that horseshoe shape. You're going to see it tonight through Friday morning. We're going to see moderate winds, and that is going to be the main time frame we'll see these winds for us. Wind-prone areas are going to be the main spots where we're going to get those winds. And as we head to Friday midday, so right around this time tomorrow, we'll see the wind weaken, and then it'll shift from an onshore direction, which is ocean air, and it'll help the humidity in the air. So that's a breakdown for now. We'll get to the futurecast to show you exactly what we're seeing in terms of the gust. As we head to the afternoon, like I mentioned, a strengthening wind. There is that horseshoe shape of those typical Santa Ana winds we get through tonight, and we get a little bit more of those winds through those wind-prone spots. The Inland Empire and Orange County, your winds are going to be stronger this time than LA and Ventura County. That's something we're noticing, so we'll follow your forecast there. We get to tomorrow morning, and this is around 7 o'clock in the morning. We'll still monitor some moderate winds, but just those higher spots here in the mountains will get 40 to 50 mile per hour wind gust. Overall, I think Santa Clarita will stay below the 15 mile per hour range, but near the beaches, right there, Malibu, you can see 32 mile per hour wind gust. That's near the Pacific Palisades. So watch that closely, because that could flare up some of those hot spots out there during the Palisades fire. Looking at 11 o'clock tomorrow, we've got weakening wind, and there is the shift in the wind. Now, one thing it's going to do is allow the humidity to increase, but it's also going to blow that smoke inland. So areas that don't have the wind, or actually the smoke right now, like the Inland Empire in Orange County, you're eventually going to get that here in the next 24 hours. So we keep reminding you to protect your lungs. It's just so important. This is something that is going to impact us here in Southern California as these fires continue to burn, and a little bit after that as well. 78 degrees for your highs today. I do want to point that out. It's a little bit warmer this afternoon, but please, if you don't need to be outside, don't spend too much time out there. Wear those masks as you head out. That is not just going to affect your lungs, but then your eyes and everything like that. There's pollutants in this smoke. We've got temperatures cooling down this weekend, and although we haven't put it here on the 7-day forecast yet, I want to give you another update on some wind. We're monitoring the possibility we could see another round come Saturday, Sunday, and then maybe even into Tuesday and Wednesday of next week, because of those the development and the pattern that we're seeing. It's going to keep those skies clear. It's going to keep our 7-day forecast dry every day. So unfortunately, we have about a 0% chance of seeing any rain, and we really need soaking rain to to help us out here. That is not going to be happening for the next 7 days in SoCal. It's mainly going to be the wind we're focusing on, the dry air that we've got, and again, these fires that continue to burn and that poor air quality. Those things we are watching very closely, monitoring that, updating you right there on the NBC LA app, and right here, we've been streaming and we have been on the air for what now, almost over 48 hours. Yeah.
Almost 50 hours.
So we've got you covered.
Yeah.
And just another important reminder to scan that QR code there to get those latest updates on weather conditions. Looking live now from PCH. This is near Big Rock Drive. Some more stunning images of the destruction from the Palisades fire. As we've been reporting, we now have our first confirmed fatality near Dukes, and it's now officially the most destructive fire in LA County history. Jonathan, just somber. Just looking at these images is absolutely heartbreaking.
You see the cars burned out. We're not sure what this building was, if it was a row of buildings. You know, PCH, you know, the homes are inches from each other, home after home after home, along one of the most glorious stretches of coastline anywhere in the world, one of the most famous roadways, PCH, anywhere in the world. You see those pillars there in the water, all that is left of what people built over the decades and years here in Southern California for themselves, for their families, to enjoy the Pacific coast like only we can. This is one of the reasons people live in Southern California. We put up with the expensive prices and the taxes and everything else for this view. And this is a view now devastated by the Palisades fire, as you mentioned, Camilla, now the most destructive in LA City and LA County history. And our photographer giving us a really somber and sobering insight as the Pacific Ocean continues to do its thing as if nothing happened. And it's just devastating to watch.
Yeah, just one of many images that we have been seeing from a number of our reporters out in the field, talking to homeowners who have lost absolutely everything and having to come back to that devastation.
Our Brittany Hope, in fact, spoke to a homeowner on Palisades Drive who say they lost their home in everything in this fire.
We've spent about an hour now driving through the Palisades Highlands, and this is significant destruction here. A man who lives nearby came over. He told us that these were condos. He said that they were referred to as the Woodies. He said that wasn't the proper name, but if you live in the Highlands, you know that's what they're called because their facade, the outside, was all wood, which definitely is probably a reason why this whole area is destroyed. About 30 minutes ago, we did see CAL FIRE come here to the Woodies because there were so many spots that are smoldering. Residents who live across, whose homes are still standing, tell us that they were really concerned. Here, let me get this branch from Joel's foot. There's still a lot of debris everywhere, as you can see. So they were really concerned. They came over. CAL FIRE started putting a lot of water on all of this, but you can just see what we're looking at. I'm not sure how many condos were here, but so many people lived in this. A lot of the Woodies, right? A lot of the timber and the lumber that made up that facade is here. And there's so much that's left over here.